Your wound is not your weakness, it's your weapon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I am your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Madeline Cruz, a mother, author, advocate, and community leader whose memoir, Silence Me No More, is a powerful testament to the strength it takes to break silence and reclaim your voice. Madeline is committed to helping others find their voice, serving her community, advocating for children and families, and creating meaningful change through transparency, accountability, and compassion. Her work is making the world a better place, one courageous conversation at a time. And what I learned from Madeline during our conversation, I believe, will challenge everything you thought you knew about resilience, success, and what it truly means to lead from a place of wholeness. So let me ask you something. How many of us have been taught that our pain is something to hide, that our trauma is unprofessional, that our wounds have no place in the boardroom, the business plan, or the brand? We've been told to keep it moving, be strong, leave personal stuff at the door. And so we do. We show up, we perform, we lead, we build. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet ache, a heaviness, a part of us that's still bleeding, still silenced, still waiting to be seen. Madeline shared something with me that I want you to sit with for a moment. She said that our deepest wounds can become our greatest professional and entrepreneurial superpower when we stop hiding them and start healing them. Not when we ignore them, not when we numb them, but when we do the sacred, difficult work of tending to them with therapy, with faith, with community, with self love. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive. We've been conditioned to believe that success requires separation, that ambition and trauma live in two different worlds. But what Madeline helped me understand, and what I want to share with you today, is that unprocessed pain quietly shapes everything. It shapes how we lead, how we love, how we spend money, how we set boundaries, even the clients we attract. And if we're not careful, it keeps us stuck in cycles we don't even realize we're repeating. Let me tell you about Tarana Burke. You know her name, you know the movement, Me Too. But what you might not know is that Tarana started this work in 2006, long before it became a global hashtag. She was working with young Black girls in Selma, Alabama, girls who had survived sexual violence but had no safe place to talk about it. And Tarana herself was a survivor. She knew the shame, the silence, the isolation. And one day, a young girl disclosed her abuse to Tarana, and Tarana froze. She didn't know what to say. Later, she wished she had simply said, Me too. And from that moment of regret, from that moment of wishing she had spoken, a movement was born. For more than a decade, Tarana held workshops, created programs, built community spaces, often without recognition, without funding, without applause. She was doing the work because she believed survivors, especially Black girls and women, deserved to be heard. And then in 2017, the phrase went viral. Suddenly, the world was paying attention. But here's what I want you to catch: Tarana's power didn't come from hiding her pain, it came from healing it, naming it, and using it to create space for others to do the same. She turned her wound into a movement, her silence into a global conversation, her survival into leadership that has influenced policy, shifted corporate culture, and given millions of people permission to say, Me too, I'm not alone. That's what Madeline is talking about. Your story, when stewarded with wisdom and boundaries, is not a liability, it's an asset. It's leadership. Now, let's talk about resilience because I think we've been getting this wrong. We've been taught that resilience is about toughness, about never breaking, about being the strong Black woman who can handle anything. But Madeline offered a different definition and it stopped me in my tracks. She said, resilience is not about never falling, it's about allowing yourself to be broken, doing the work to heal, and then choosing to rise again and again with support, with faith, with therapy, and with community. Let me say that again. Resilience is not about never falling, it's about how you rise and who you allow to rise with you. This is the part we don't talk about enough. We glorify the solo climb, the woman who does it all alone, the entrepreneur who bootstraps everything, the leader who never asks for help. But that's not resilience, that's survival mode. And survival mode will burn you out, break you down, and leave you wondering why success feels so hollow. Madeline reminded me that rising is a communal act, not a solo performance. And I want you to think about that in your own life. Who is in your corner? Who holds you accountable? Who reminds you of your worth when you forget? Who gives you permission to rest? Because if you're trying to do this alone, you're not being resilient. You're repeating a pattern that was never meant to sustain you. Let me introduce you to Bazoma St. John. Boz is a Ghanaian American marketing executive who has held senior leadership roles at PepsiCo, Beats by Dre, Apple Music, Uber, and Netflix. She's brilliant, she's bold, and she's unapologetically herself. She wears African prints in boardrooms. She speaks in her own voice. She refuses to shrink. But here's what makes Boz's story so powerful. She has also been open about her grief. She lost her husband to cancer while raising their daughter. And instead of hiding that pain, instead of pretending it didn't exist, she wrote about it in her memoir, The Urgent Life. She talked about it publicly. She let people see that success and sorrow can coexist, that you can be a high achieving executive and still be healing. That vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. And you know what happened? She became even more sought after, not in spite of her honesty, but because of it. Because people trust leaders who are real, who are human, who don't pretend to have it all together. Boz showed us that bringing your full self, including your healing journey, into your professional life can be a competitive advantage, not a liability. So here's the question I want to leave with you. What part of yourself are you hiding because you think it makes you less professional? What wound are you carrying in silence because you're afraid of being judged? And what would it look like to steward that story with wisdom, to share it in the right spaces with the right people, and watch it become the very thing that opens doors? Now, I know some of you are thinking, but LeAnne, I can't just go around telling everyone my trauma. That's not safe. That's not smart. And you're right. Madeline was very clear about this. You don't have to share every detail publicly. You don't owe anyone your full story. But hiding your truth out of fear or shame, that keeps you bound. That keeps you small. That keeps you silent. And silence, as Madeline's memoir title reminds us, is no longer an option. Let me tell you about Dr. Thema Bryant. Dr. Thema is a Black woman psychologist, ordained minister, and former president of the American Psychological Association. Her work focuses on trauma, particularly in marginalized communities. And she has this beautiful way of bridging faith and psychology, of making healing accessible, of speaking directly to Black professionals and creatives who are tired of being strong and ready to be whole. She hosts a podcast called Homecoming, and the title alone says everything. Healing is not about becoming someone new, it's about coming home to yourself, reclaiming your identity, your voice, your joy. Dr. Thema teaches that tending to your mental and emotional health is not a luxury, it's foundational, it's infrastructure. And for Black professionals and entrepreneurs, navigating racism, sexism, bias, and generational trauma, therapy is not extra. It's essential. It's a core business and career strategy. Because here's the truth: unhealed trauma shows up in overworking, in people pleasing, in undercharging, in tolerating toxic workplaces, in staying silent in the face of injustice. And if you want to build something sustainable, if you want to lead with integrity, if you want to show up fully in your calling, you have to do the inner work. You have to make healing non negotiable. Madeline said something to me that I think every Black woman in leadership needs to hear. She said, your healing is not separate from your success. It is a core business and career strategy. And I want you to let that sink in. Your therapy sessions, that's professional development. Your boundaries, that's brand protection. Your rest, that's strategic planning. Your voice, that's your competitive edge. So here's what I want you to take away from this conversation: three things. Write them down, carry them with you, let them guide you as you step into your soft girl era. First, your healing is not separate from your success. It is a core business and career strategy. Unhealed trauma will sabotage your leadership, your relationships, your money, and your peace. Choosing therapy, coaching, support groups, or spiritual counsel is not extra. It's infrastructure for sustainable leadership and entrepreneurship. Second, resilience is not about never falling. It's about how you rise and who you allow to rise with you. Instead of glorifying doing it all alone, redefine resilience as being honest about your pain, asking for help, creating boundaries, and building a community that can hold you accountable, encourage you, and advocate for you. Rising is a communal act, not a solo performance. Third, your story and your voice are assets, not liabilities. Steward them with wisdom, not shame. You don't have to share every detail publicly, but hiding your truth out of fear or shame can keep you bound. When you share your story with intention, whether in a brand, a book, a keynote, or a boardroom, you give others permission to heal, you model courage, and you create deeper trust with the people you are called to serve. So here's my challenge to you today. I want you to stop for a moment. I want you to think about the part of your story you've been silencing to survive, the wound you've been hiding because you thought it made you weak, the pain you've been carrying alone because you didn't think anyone would understand. And I want you to ask yourself, what is one courageous step I can take this week to honor that truth? Maybe it's scheduling that first therapy session. Maybe it's journaling about what you've been too afraid to say out loud. Maybe it's having a conversation with someone you trust. Maybe it's finally saying no where you've always said yes. And before you chase the next title, the next client, the next launch, I want you to ask yourself this: how can I make healing a non negotiable part of my success plan this year? Then write down one concrete action: finding a therapist, joining a support group, setting a firm boundary at work, telling your story in a safe space, and commit to it. Because here's what I know: you are worthy of love, healing, and a future greater than your pain. The things that were meant to break you can become the very things that help you inspire, uplift, and empower others. Your voice matters, your story matters, and the world is not just waiting for you to rise. The world needs you to rise, not in silence, not in shame, but in truth, in power, in wholeness. So rise, sis. Rise with your wounds and your wisdom. Rise with your scars and your story. Rise with your voice, loud and unapologetic, because your wound is not your weakness, it's your weapon, and it's time to use it.